Chapter 3 is going to be titled after a Lionel Richie song, which is Once, Twice, Three Times a Lady. And why is it once, twice, three times a lady? It is, again, another metaphor, but each of the three times represent a, a form of movement. I'll give an example. You are in a situation where you ask somebody a question and they give you a shut off kind of answer. And then you come back and you ask again and they give you another shut off kind of answer. And then you come back and you ask again, and on that third point of meeting, usually the person will then experience a change. The power structure will begin to shift to the person who has used law of attraction at such a powerful rate that things will then begin to change. Now, to the young apprentice of this kind of study, it's very hard on your emotions and makes you feel very vulnerable, especially in a room where other people are listening, to watch and expect you to fail, to come back and ask something maybe a little bit different in a second way, after a person has already assumed they have given you the final answer. And then once more, if you ask a second time and you begin to be shut down and you feel these emotions, you feel this sadness, this feeling of failure, this feeling that the day is lost, this feeling that I have lost my touch, the feeling that I have lost my style. And then once more, you begin to say again. I've been in situations where I've gone to the third and the fourth time, and these are very harsh thresholds when playing with the idea of energy. Now, Jesus was once asked the question, what words would you say? And Jesus said, don't worry about the words that you speak. Your Father in heaven already knows what you want. And so you open your mouth, and whatever you speak is your intention. And therefore, you will rise in ascension as you begin to stick with it. Now, to a person who seems to have lost what they want in the setting of the room, and anything is always possible. You can never look at any situation and say, what I want that is in integrity and alignment with what led me to this point of meeting is fodder, and there's no way it's going to happen. Now, if a bunch of people in the room think there's no way that it's going to happen, then they think there's no way it's going to happen. It only takes one person in the room to actually believe in the power of what the point of attraction is, and they're able to get through. So this comes in the form of whining kids who won't stop crying until they get their toy. Now, we were trained to be embarrassed, and we have natural feelings of inferiority that we go through when we are told no. But who died and made that person ruler over us? They are at the position they are at, and they're at the emotion they're at because that is what they practiced. And to anybody who wants to try something new, and everybody goes into each day wanting to try something new, there's always a need to begin to build energy and to begin to work your way into a higher sense of resources allotted. And that's really what this conversation is about resources. Who are the captors and who are the holders of resources, or who are the holders of human relationships? This is the conversation of the song Magic Rude. The daddy said, I will never let you get married. And he said, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm going to marry her anyway. And essentially, love is what the universe is made out of. And the way you approach your relationships is the way you approach getting any situation, such as allotting resources. And so these points of meeting come to a very interesting crux. And this is the song codified by Rob Thomas. I want to push you down. Well, I will. Well, I will. And so there's so much conversation about domestic abuse and what is considered abuse and what is considered boundaries and drawing lines. But essentially, there is a need to show intention. Napoleon Hill came up with the concept through his book Think and Grow Rich about sexual transmutation. And so I really know who the real bad guys are the repressive ones, and some of the ones who act out in ways that aren't respectable to most of us are working with their natural sexual energy, but have not learned to begin to integrate it. And why haven't they been able to learn to integrate it is because so many people are beholders of resources that are not their own. Who died and said you own that? You have a piece of paper that says you own that. And now I reflect again. Who died and said you own that? Well, the person who signed my piece of paper. Well, who died and made them the person that could provide the paper that if you sign it you would own that? It's a series of contracts that essentially mean nothing more than the people who believe in those perceptions and welcome those perceptions. 3 times a lady is a very, very scary resonance, but when you do meet those points of meeting and you're able to draw the red X in reverse and you begin to understand, okay, this is how things develop, this is how patterns develop, and you're going to be able to hit those spots all the time because you begin to understand the process. And each of these once, twice, 3 times a lady, it becomes the fun and the fodder of the day. You think you own this? Well, you don't know the Americans who fled, not Egypt, or the Israelites who fled Egypt. They didn't care what the Egyptians thought. And so it goes with all of the power in the world. Somebody who's hard to deal with, you're going to want to let them do what they want to do to get them out of your hair because it hurts you. And why it begins to hurt you is because of the resistance that you're resonating with that they feel held back. When you feel that sense of I'm withholding resources and it hurts to do this, but I have to be firm. Sometimes they'll use that as their virtue word. Sometimes I have to be firm. And when they do that, they feel how their firmness has made the other person feel. And the person who holds the resources is going to move on with their life whereas the other person is going to be stuck at that very vibrational place where dad said, no, you can't marry my daughter. Good chapter.